Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. I'm your DJ and host, Sam Wilson Jr., and I'm here to bring you the history genre of black music: gospel, jazz, blues, old school classic soul, old school hip hop, today's hip hop and R&B, Caribbean, Latin, Afrobeat, Afro-Latina, blue-eyed soul, disco, go-go, line dances, and the Lost 45s. So come with me as I take you on to a trip to the history genre destination of black music. Right now on the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Welcome to a bonus episode of the Black Soul Music Experience. I'm Sam Wilson Jr., and I have a special guest on my show, and it's a Mother's Day episode. And this lady that I'm about to introduce is from the state of Ohio. She is a singer, songwriter, and a multi-instrumentalist. She has received lots of honors and awards in school, and you can check out her music videos available right now on YouTube. Please help me welcome to the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast, Miss Desi Hunt. Hi, Desi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and you? Welcome to my podcast. Glad to have you here, and thank you for your quick response. And it's been very busy, so I posted something on the line of board. I said I'm still looking for some guests who can be a guest for a Mother's Day episode. So thank you for your response. And when I saw it, I had to write up quickly with the questions. So I said, again, thank you for your response.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, because I try to reach out to some independent singers, either they were on the major record labels or not on the major record labels. So it's my mission to reach out to some of the independent singers, young or old. So it's always a pleasure to have you here. Okay. So, as I always say, the world doesn't know who you are. America doesn't know who you are. So I'm very delighted to have you here to interview you. So let us begin, shall we? Now, as I mentioned, you're from the state of Ohio. What city or town were you born in the state of Ohio?
I was born in Mansfield, Ohio, and we grew up around that area in Ontario, which kind of neighbors Mansfield. And I actually was adopted as a baby, so I got really lucky and I stayed local, but I got raised by incredible parents with great siblings and foster siblings, and couldn't have asked for anything better, really.
Okay. Now, were any of your relatives in the music industry, or did they had 9 to 5 day jobs?
So my grandma, from my adoptive family, she actually did all of our music at church. So I got to start singing in church when I was about 4. So she's who I had right beside me as far as music. My parents always pushed me singing and doing music and anything entertainment. I believe my biological father had actually gotten a scholarship for music when he was going to collegiate schools. I want to say maybe it was Otterbein. He had gotten a scholarship for. He did a lot of like gospel music and stuff like that.
Now, which high school did you go to?
I went to Crestline High School, and it was really small. I graduated in a class of about 38 people. Um, but it gave me a lot of opportunities. I think if I was at a bigger school, I might not have had as far as music. Well, anything really, but specifically music for sure.
And which college did you go to?
For 2 years, I attended Cleveland State University, and I was going for my bachelor's of arts in music, but it was popular music with a focus in vocal performance. So I did 3/4 of my first year in person, and then COVID happened, so I ended up getting sent home from school to do everything virtually. Then I did virtual for about a year, and after that, I kind of decided it was a little tricky to be doing college online, being completely honest. However, there was a program at Terra State. My parents moved up to Lake Erie to retire, and so when I moved to Cleveland, so I ended up moving back in with them. And about 30 minutes away was Terra State, and they had a music technology and recording arts program that I was like, oh, that sounds good. Like, it felt almost like, yeah, this is where I can get that grasp so I can make my music and put it out there, but do it the right way.
And what was your major in college?
I graduated with my Associates of Applied Science in Music Technology and Recording Arts. So audio engineering, but also focusing with the vocal.
And who did you want it to be when you grow up?
Loved me some Alicia Keys. I've never heard a song of hers I don't like, but at the same time, they're upbeat, they're positive, and there's always a story, and there's always more to it. She doesn't do too much, but she is extraordinarily talented. I've never heard a bad thing about her on anything, so there's multiple reasons for that, but I just think she's incredible. So definitely her.
And how old were you when you started writing songs and singing and playing the musical instruments?
Yeah, so I was 4 when I started singing publicly, so I started in church. Um, I believe I started writing when I was 6. I didn't realize that I was doing that. My mom and I actually found some old songs, not good, but some old songs that I had written when I was a child. They were funny, that's for sure, but I did start that a lot earlier than I remember. And then I took piano lessons. I believe we started those when I was about 5 or 6. So I continued those till I was 12, kind of stopped for a minute, and then picked back up with those towards the end of high school, both vocal and piano lessons, but I've had voice lessons for forever. So it's been a long time. My entire life's been music. I've always loved it.
Was being a singer and songwriter and musician your calling?
100%. I do believe that God puts us here for a reason, and He gives us skills and talents that maybe we don't know why we have it, or, maybe there's other things we love to do as well, but there's something about music where I can help and inspire people and make them feel like they're not alone. Give them something and somebody to have in their corner that, hey, that reminds me of myself, and it's okay to feel this way or be this way. That's always been really important to me. So it's definitely my passion, but it's also my purpose.
Now, you mentioned Alicia Keys. Now, growing up, who was some of your favorite singers besides Alicia Keys?
Well, let's see here. I loved Adele. She was a big one for me. Whitney Houston always. When I was younger, I was like, man, I want to sing just like her. She's just so incredible. And until I got my tonsils out, I didn't even try a Whitney Houston song. But man, she's amazing. Rihanna's got some of her older music was fun for me. I enjoyed listening to her. And then I liked some other artists and such. I kind of got on an Ed Sheeran train. I'm not really sure when that happened. I think I just kind of connected to his songwriting abilities and thought that was really cool. There's been so many people. Amy Winehouse was one. I had been compared to her a few times. I was told I have a twang, and so I also have like a different voice. And when you're younger, you're like, I don't know if I like that. But now that I'm an adult, I'm so glad I don't sound like everybody else. But it did take me a long time to get there. But having all these different artists and musicians and songwriters to listen to growing up, and having the MP3 player and the iPod was very helpful with that.
And who were your musical influences that had inspired you to sing and play the instruments?
Definitely, I loved the Dreamgirls movies and all of those. So all of my influences came from not only what my parents would play for me, which was more, they kind of stuck around like Christian music for a minute, and then we'd listen to whatever's on the radio, and I always chose the pop station. But there has been multiple people, I think, that have kind of shifted my how I write and kind of how I focus on my music. And it's really random. I always tell people I'm a random person. There's a band, and they are called AJR, and it's a band of three brothers, and they do like alternative music. And someone's like, it's happy songs, but like with kind of a sad like story if you really listen to it. So I thought that was really cool that they took something that people have done all the time and turned it into something else. I found a lot of beauty in that. Ruth B, I came across her a little bit later. She reminded me of myself. She was mostly just did the piano and sang. She played piano and she sang, and that was most of her songs. But they were really touching and inspiring. Even to this day, I find songs from her that I'm like, wow, she's like really good. Like, that's really a good place to start. And of course, like I said, Alicia Keys, she's just got those stories that she takes them from other people and she puts them into her music, and that's really important for me too as an artist. So that's something that I've learned to do.
Now, before you got your big break, have you worked at any day jobs? And if so, what was your first day job?
Oh yeah, so actually my first job ever, I worked at the Ohio State Reformatory, the haunted prison. And I'm not a girl that likes scary things. But we had given senior projects at school. I went to a career technical program called Pioneer Performing Arts in Mansfield for a couple years. So I presented my senior project where I had ran all these events for our class. We did gigs, live shows. So I kind of hosted and ran those and also was a part of them as well. And there was a gentleman that came up to me after and was like, get a hold of me if you ever need a job. And at that time, I was still in school, and my parents were like, if you have good grades, you don't have to work. So I had my good grades. But once I got out, I was like, I wonder if he was serious. So I had called him, and he's like, yeah, 100%, like, you can come and work. So I ended up being his assistant at the reformatory for the incarceration festivals and the blood prison haunted house that they do every year. So that was really cool. And I had worked on some like local films as well while I was in high school. So those are like my first couple jobs that I had.
Okay. Were you kind of like a worker by day and then a singer by night?
A lot of the time, yes. I've always tried to do as much as possible. Even right now, like I do the trivia on Tuesdays, and I have gigs on the weekends, so I'm currently working at a marina. However, it's perfect because I can go to work, do work, and leave work at work. And then when I'm off, I can come home, I can record, I can write, or I can go to a gig or do a podcast, for instance. So it's been really helpful. But it works for me, and it makes the most sense. It kind of keeps you grounded, too, having a 9-to-5 job.
Right. It's kind of similar when I did season 3. I interviewed my younger cousin, whom I haven't met yet, but she was a nurse in the daytime and she's a singer by night. And yes, she has some of her songs which is available on iTunes. And you kind of like, just like you said earlier, you try to like flex it a bit, and how can you wraps that schedule. So it's kind of like a challenge, but when you play your cards right, you have something financially that keeps you surviving. And we all have our day job, and then we have the other one by night. And me, as a former Viacom CBS Paramount employee back in the 90s when CBS was sold to Westinghouse, and I had to get a second job. And that's when I was working at a local radio station in New Rochelle, New York. So I got my big break, started out as an intern in December of 94. And then August of 95, I became a regular employee. So then, as long as you have your financial things, a leeway, so make sure you have everything personally grounded.
For
Just wanted to
sure.
share that with you because
Appreciate
many
that.
people have two jobs. Back then, they may have three jobs, four jobs, and may not get that much sleep. So as
Yeah.
long as you have something on the table. Now, since this is a Mother's Day episode, what was the first Mother's Day gift you bought?
My mom was never somebody who liked us buying. She still doesn't like us buying her gifts, honestly. So we always made her stuff. I think the first thing we made was in school, and it was these little ceramic heart Christmas ornaments, and I think mine had a bug on it. Really original, I know, but she still hangs it up every year, and every year we try to create her something new. So
Yes. Now, if you was writing a Mother's Day song right now or like in future references, what would that song be about?
I love to not only take inspiration from my own life because I have a very diverse life, went through a lot of adversity, and my mom was my right hand person through, and my dad through all of that. So I would definitely put things in about my personal experiences with my mom, but I would also put in experiences that I've had personally with my friends' parents or teachers who acted as our moms, and took care of us when we weren't there, instructors, and just some people that you just met through and through. There's a woman, her name's Connie, and she does a lot of music throughout Ohio, actually, and she's got a band, and she was like one of the biggest music moms that I had. Like, she just always was there with music. She pushed me, she supported me, just like my own mom does. There's just so many different realms of what it takes to be a mom, and different ways of being motherly towards other people. And I was very blessed and lucky to have a lot of influence from a lot of very strong women around me.
Now, what was some of your favorite Mother's Day songs growing up? I know you have like you've been adopted or they have blended families, but what was some of your favorite Mother's Day songs?
Let me see. There is literally anything that my mom would listen to. We would like. I think one year I made her a playlist of songs that she liked. So we had listened to some of those. A lot of Amy Grant. She had a lot of songs that we liked. So I tried to do those like at church for Mother's Day. I think I did Thy Word. I know I did that one. Lauren Diego's another one. It's something with, because we always went to church on Sundays, so it was cool to be able to kind of take that, but also like, I love God, I love Jesus, I love my mom. But they always had really good messages in there about people loving you and taking care of you. So I always made sure to sing those because my grandma loved them as well and my aunt. Um, but I think my favorite one, it's not actually a Mother's Day song, but every time I hear it, I cry. Um, it is The House That Built Me by Miranda Lambert. And I know that makes no sense, but my parents had built their house from the ground up. So they worked their entire lives and they built this big old house and fostered all these kids. And we were lucky we were picked and selected. But they loved everybody that walked through that house, and that every time I hear that song I cry because it's the perfect story of, this is the route that they took and that she took. And I know it makes her emotional too. I tried to do it at a show one time and didn't make it through the whole song, but I tried. But I think that kind of because it wasn't such a mainstream Mother's Day song, like outright saying, yeah, mom and dad, it's just perfect. So I definitely sing that for her as much as I can.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you had some other day jobs. You were the game show trivia host at She. Tell us about that.
Well, the company is actually called Sporkle, and they. I applied because it said that you'd make good money and you just have to talk, and I was like, well, I can do that all day. So I had applied on Indeed of all things. Um, but once I got going, they set you up. They're like, hey, let's have you read a script to see if you'd be a good fit and good personality to host the show and keep people coming back, because that's where some of your money comes in. But also, I had the background of being able to run live sound and run it by myself. So that kind of set me up as far as being able to multitask on the job. So every Tuesday, I pack up my little suitcase of live sound equipment and my PA, and I drive about 25 minutes away to a local restaurant called Sidelines in Norwalk. And I essentially have a residency there. So I'm there every Tuesday unless I call off or have something else going on, or it's a holiday, or the restaurant's closed as well. Um, and we go at 7 p.m. when the show starts, make a playlist. I get to look at all the questions and stuff ahead of time before I go out and present them, which is very helpful and needed. And then there's just teams that come every week to play, and it's usually the same few teams, but they'll tell their friends, and then they'll bring their friends, so it kind of like trickles down. But yeah, it is so much fun, and it's quick money. It's 3 hours of my life every week with really fun people and being able to network and make people laugh and smile and just enjoy themselves in the middle of the week.
Now, you were also a motivational speaker, and since this is Mother's Day, and yes, you were adopted, and I forgot to ask you, how old were you when you were adopted?
I
Was
was a
it
baby.
4? You was a baby.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, since you're grown, I don't know if you're in your teens or in your 20s, but as I said, as a motivational speaker, what advice would you give to the single mothers, or should I say, mothers who had to also be daddies, and to the new mothers expecting to be? What advice would you give to them?
Well, I have met my biological sister, and she has three boys technically right now, but she's also pregnant with another one. She's expecting. And being able to watch her and my mom, and knowing about my biological mom and her just not being the best mom ever, um, my best advice is to take care of yourself. If you do not take care of yourself, you absolutely cannot take care of other people, whether that's physically or mentally or financially. But at the same time, like, you're not gonna be perfect, and that's completely okay. Perfect's not a thing, it doesn't exist in my world anyway. You're gonna make mistakes. You can't grow if you don't make mistakes, and it's all gonna be okay. And I think people get so used to just hearing people say, "Yeah, it's gonna be all right, and you'll be fine." Like, but for real, you will be okay. Just take the time that you need for you, and love your kids. Do things with them. Spend that quality time with them. Just being able to have parents. I'm 24, so the kids in my class, a lot of their parents were either divorced, or they didn't have them, or there was just one. But with that, it was, you could tell whose parents cared. And that was the biggest thing with all of my friends was, you can tell if their moms care too. So it kind of comes back out and comes to life, and it does relay off of you as a person. So, look in the mirror and tell yourself you're beautiful and you've got this, because your daughter or son is going to come up, and if you're talking negatively about yourself, they're going to do the same thing, because that's just inevitable when that's just consistently practiced like that. So just being able to love yourself and take care of yourself will help you prosper as a mom or a mom to be.
Okay. Well, that's real good advice, because me, coming from my parents, I'm originally from the village of Harlem in New
Okay.
York City and living in the boogie down Bronx, New York. My parents were divorced back in the summer of 1969, and my late oldest sister, she was a year older than me. So I never get a chance to get to know my black culture.
Yeah.
Until then, I was moved to the Bronx. So it's just me and my late mother and my late older sister. And my mom was dating this guy from Chicago, Illinois, and never told me about anything about him before she talked about it in 2009. So I've been moved around the Bronx a lot, living on the west side of the Bronx on Harrison Avenue in those apartments, then moved to the east side of the Bronx in Park Chester, and then it was just me and mom. We moved back to Harlem. We stayed with a couple of her friends. We had lived in the projects for a while on Fifth Avenue in the village of Harlem until by the end of 1972, going into after the holiday, New Year's Day, 1973, it was just me and mom on our own. Moved back to the Bronx, but lived further up to the Wakefield section near Westchester County, New York. So we lived in a two-family house. We lived on the street level on East 226th Street between Bronxwood and Barnes Avenue. There was a Jewish family that lived upstairs until by the time they had moved out. And there was another black family moved in the springtime of 1973. Yes, there was a black family, but I found out that they were not from America. Their accent was different. So that's when I found out later they were from Jamaica, West Indies. So they were like my babysitters. So while my mom was working overtime, double time, triple time, and yes, they were my babysitters, and most of the time my maternal grandmother would come up and make sure that everything's been taken care of. Make sure I do the chores, make sure I help her out going to the store, anything that needs to be. Until like summer of 74, then my mom let this guy moved in, and that was her future husband, my stepfather. And at first we didn't get along, but then things kind of smooth it out and everything. And I was introduced to Caribbean music. Everybody, from Bob Marley to Byron Lee to Gregory Isaacs to the Mighty Sparrow. So I've been dropped off by every babysitter. So like you said earlier, you had gospel music. I was dropped off by my late maternal aunt's apartment in the Bronx. She would be playing gospel music all day. Everyone from James Cleveland to Shirley Caesar to some of the gospel choirs and quartets. And then I was dropped off at my maternal grandparents' apartment on East 168th Street, also in the Bronx. Then my late grandfather would play some Motown and some Atlantic records. And when listening to Stax Records, which includes the late Isaac Hayes, and he pulled out the LP called the Isaac Hayes Movement. And that's I was exposed to the songs. And then he started talking or rapping. And I said, enough with the talking, get to the singing. So that's when I got exposed to it. And I looked at the album cover. And I said to myself, is Isaac Hayes swirling in a bowl of cream of wheat? Well, then I look at the back album cover. I see him with the sunglasses. I say, is he blind or cross-eyed or something? He was wearing that black and white striped suit. And then when I opened up the album cover, this was his trademark, Shades and Chains. That was his trademark. And then when I listened to remakes of the songs that was done by the original artist, it was like 4 songs too long. He would take an original song, he would strip it and stretched it as far as wide as the eye can see. He would make us take a 3-minute song and turn it into 12 minutes or 15 minutes, like almost the whole album. And then my mom dropped me off at another friend's house. We was listening to Philadelphia International Records, where they had the OJs and Howard Melvin and the Blue Notes with Teddy Pendergrass and the Three Degrees and the Futures. Then later Lou Rawls and the Jones Girls and their house band MFSB. So I was intrigued by everything, and then her co-worker, who was Afro-Latina, we was introduced to some Latin music. So like every babysitter dropping me off wherever I go, I be exposed to all types of music. And yes, especially when I took up music education, I'll be listening to some of the other top 40 music. And then, like one Sunday afternoon, my late mom and I will be in a car on a Sunday afternoon. We will listen to the other white stations, top 40 radios station, whether it's like Carly Simon or Carole King or Sir Elton John, just to name a few. So we kind of listen to the other stations around in the Bronx. We would travel to all types of sections and everything. Now, speaking of cover songs, I got a chance to check out your music videos on YouTube. You did the cover version of Alyssa Cara's Out of Love and Daniel Caesar featuring her Best Part. What was it like doing those remakes?
Well, oh, I do want to preface with this. My parents, I was adopted by, they were white, so I was the only brown one around at the time. So I definitely really relate to you with having the different, which they were really great about, like making sure that I had my culture and my background. But it's really cool to like have somebody that's like, oh, okay, so that's awesome, you get it. So that was really cool. As far as my covers, I didn't start doing covers on purpose. Um, of course, when I was younger, I had YouTube growing up, so I grew up with the evolution of YouTube. Um, so it was kind of cool because like you'd see people do new things with stuff that's already been around. Or there'd be songs that I'm like, man, I love that song, and my mom would look at me and be like, that's already a song, they just redid it. Um, so like I Will Always Love You, like that was a big one. Like a lot of my friends did not believe me when I said that's not her song. It's not Whitney Houston's song. It sounds like it. I was like, I know, but it's not. So that kind of like gave me a kick of like, it doesn't have to sound exactly the way it did when they made it initially. I think music's always up for interpretation. And especially after I got my tonsils taken out, I was able to hit notes that I had been practicing to hit for years. So being able to do these covers and actually find my voice it took a long time, but it was definitely worth the journey. It made me very grateful to where I am and all of my education that I've had, but it's also like opened my mind up to try new things. People like new things. Everything's super saturated as far as being online and being an online musician and or whatever else. But being able to make something that's different to me it's more art, but it's also more influential to like let people know whatever it is that you want to do, you can make it work. And my mom was always somebody who was really good about, if you can't hit the notes, just change the note. And I was like, you can't just do that. And she goes, yeah, you can. People do it all people do it all the time. And until I had gotten into high school, I was like, oh, I understand now. So then once you learn like the musicality and all of that goes into keys and whatever the chords are, that you can take these and you can put them into something that you love and you can recreate it in your own way, but also being able to do it in a way that doesn't necessarily take away from the original. It just adds something different, to add something that is you, to something that you already love. They know you love the song, or you more than likely probably wouldn't have covered it, or you enjoy singing it, or whichever else. But that was something that was important, just putting my own little spin on things. A lot of the time it was not on purpose. Now it's a little much more on purpose, but being able to do those cover songs, I think it's just so much fun to just take something, maybe it's been done 87 times, just do it again. Everyone's here to listen, so if they don't want to listen, they won't, and if they do, then they will. So yeah.
Okay. Now, here's a question that I always ask my guests: living or dead, which artist that you wish you wanted to meet or to perform with?
I think Etta James would be like the coolest thing in the world. I think there's just stuff there that she's had, and she is another one that I looked up to just because of her voice. Um, I wouldn't say that I was the biggest into jazz, especially not until I was an adult, um, but I could always listen to her, and I liked it because it was different. But you knew exactly who it was when she started singing. So being able to sing with somebody like that, that's been so impactful for not just me, but so many people, and how some of the experiences that she had at the time that she had, even, I think it'd be really inspiring to be able to do something like that. So that I think she'd be my top. But definitely, really anybody. Whitney Houston would be huge. But then I'd be like, oh, I don't want to sing. So, you know.
Now, here on the Black Soul Music Experience, I always ask my guests who are the top 10 R&B black artists of all time. But since this is a Mother's Day episode, we're going to change it up a bit. We're going to be doing the Black Soul Music Experience top 10 Mother's Day songs of all time. Now, here's how it works. We start like a top 10, like the show America's Top 10 with the late Casey Kasem. And we start from the bottom, and then we start getting up to the top 5, and then we find out which one of our favorite Mother's Day songs that got the best airplay. What was the best Mother's Day song that was by request, or which Mother's Day song that when you were at the nightclub, they will probably play that in honor of Mother's Day. So I'm going to do with my top 10, and you can think of yours while I start doing mine. So I'm going to start off with number 10, and it's called Treat Your Mother Right by Mr. T. Now, that's Mr. T. We all know him from the A Team on NBC. He had an album out called Mr. T's Commandments, and this came out around 1984. And he had a song which not become a hit, but it just became a picture. The name of the song was called Treat Your Mother Right. So when you listen to the song, it's just saying, Mother, I always love her. My mother. So treat her right. So Mr. T was just rapping and everything. So, like I said, it didn't get that much recognition or get any much airplay on the stations, especially around Mother's Day. So I'll put that song, Treat Your Mother Right by Mr. T, at number 10. Number 9, a gospel song called Mother Bowed by the Pilgrim Travelers. Now, this was a song about how that Mother prayed for us. How did Mother pray for us when we go to our destination safely and come back home? So Mother always prayed for us into making sure that we get to school on time or get to our transportation safely. And it is always still up to this date that Mama still prayed. So we'll put Mother Bowed by the Pilgrim Travelers at number 9. Number 8, I put like a tie. So same song, but like different singers. Number 8, I put down Love Me Like a Rock. And that song was written and performed by Paul Simon somewhere in 1973. And on the same year, the gospel group, the Dixie Hummingbirds, did their version, and that was a top 10 hit on Billboard's gospel charts. So when you hear that chorus, when I was a little boy and the devil would call my name, I said, who do you think you're fooling? I'm the consecrated boy singing on the Sunday choir. My mama loves me, she loves me. She got down on my knees and hugs me, and she loves me like a rock. Always like that chorus behind it. So even though I like Paul Simon's favorite, but I love the Dixie Hummingbirds with their version. So I put Loves Me Like a Rock, first by Paul Simon, and then later the Dixie Hummingbirds at number 8. Number 7, No Charge by Pastor Shirley Caesar. And that's a Mother's Day anthem right there. And every black radio station will play that on Mother's Day. But that has a story. It was talking about her son, which how to do the chores and how to do something. It's like writing down a list. Doing the chores, 5 cents. Taking care of little sister, 25 cents. And taking out the garbage, 15 cents. So he would put it all on that list in order to get his allowance. So when the song have always tell the real story about how to treat your mom and to do your chores, when you become a man, you never forgetting on where you came from. So at the end of the song, it just says, paid in full. So that was a real heartwarming story. So we'll put No Charge by Pastor Shirley Caesar at number 7. Number 6, I put down Grandma's Hands by the late Bill Withers. 2-minute song. He talks about his grandmother always using her hands, whether it's Sunday school or in church, or helping someone in need. So he would talk about his grandmother and what was her grandmother was there for. So I put Grandma's Hands by the late Bill Withers at number 6. Number 5, it's a tie. I put down Sadie by the Spinners and Better Days by the jazz singer Diane Reeves. Now, I put that there because that tells a story about Grandma. So when I hear the song Sadie, I was thinking about my late paternal grandmother, Sadie Beatrice Warwick Wilson. And she never tells me that she was from Maryland. I thought she was born in New York, born and bred. So when she had lived on West 139th Street between 5th and Lenox, and she lived there, and my grandparents were divorced. And then she, as a single mother, she had to raise all of her sons and daughter on her own. Never got married again, so she remained single. So it was my dad, my 2 uncles, and my aunt. So Granny raised 4 of her children on her own. And even though Granddaddy got remarried to my step-grandmother, Granny was always making sure to keep in the family everything. So when she lived on West 139th Street, they then moved to the new apartments, the Riverbend Apartments on 5th Avenue between East 138th and East 139th Streets in the village of Harlem in New York City. She was there from 1973 until she died in her sleep on April 30th, 1983. Just getting ready to go on a church trip. And then my mom and I, we went to her funeral. It was May the 6th. It was a Mother's Day weekend. Buried on May the 7th in Chapel Hill, Maryland. And then I was staying at my cousin's house that I didn't know. We were new relatives. I'm meeting for the very first time. And I was listening to WPFW FM in Washington, D.C. They were playing the Mother's Day songs on Mother's Day. And then when they were playing Sadie by the Spinners, so I was keep thinking about my paternal grandmother. So I said to myself, wouldn't be like something like that in the NYC. And that pictured my mind. By the time in 2014, I decided to burn some Mother's Day songs. I burned over 240 CDs for my church because I was on the men's ministry. And this was an idea. I pitched in the idea in memory of my late paternal grandmother. So that's when that pitch came in. It was hard work, but it paid it off. So I just put that with the Spinners. And also Better Days by Diane Reeves. She was talking about her grandmother, about the stories about grandmother. You know, making sure that your hair was all straight and how to dress up accordingly and everything. She would always talk about stories about her grandmother. So I put those two songs at a tie, Sadie by the Spinners and Better Days by Diane Reeves. Number 4, I put down a song called Thank God for Mama by the Fantastic Violinaires, the gospel group. That tells a story about how that mom always tells us how to show respect for one another, for your neighbors, how to care, how to share, always teaching us from right and wrong because we need that when we get older in life. And that's where I put Thank God for Mama at number 4. Number 3, I'll Always Love My Mama by the Intruders. So that's a top 10 hit right there. And yes, they played it every Mother's Day, not just only on Mother's Day, but like every day. And yeah, one time during the clubs, during Mother's Day weekend, the DJ will start playing that song too. When the top 40 pop radio stations, they will play the 3-minute version. But when you get to the black radio stations, they'll play the whole song, 6-minute version. And yeah, one time they'll have that extended version, like 9 minutes. But that's an anthem right there from the Intruders. So we'll put I'll Always Love My Mama at number 3. Number 2, Dear Mama by Tupac Shakur. And this was the first hip hop song. And this was something to Tupac's heart. Now, in case you may not know, his mother, Afeni Shakur, was a member of the Black Panthers and gave birth in prison. Tupac was on his own. One time he was a member of the group Digital Underground and he was hanging out with his boys and everything. But it had a story to tell of how he was raised and when from a single mother, and then the father was left out of the picture. So he was hanging out with the wrong crowd, and then by the time he became famous, I mentioned Digital Underground, he had his solo LPs, but then there was some little beef down through the way, and everything. He was appearing in movies, in court, in and out, charged with sexual harassment and other aggravated assault. But while he was in prison, he wrote that song in prison. And I saw the music video. You see Tupac's mother watching Tupac on TV. And let me tell you, that song not only played it on Mother's Day, but every day. And that was from his LP called Me Against the World. That song and LP was approved by the National Recording Registry from the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. for its significance, creativity, and excellence. So we'll put Dear Mama by the late Tupac Shakur at number 2. And number 1, A Song for Mama by Boys to Men. Beautiful song. That was from the movie Soul Food. And it was so beautiful, written by L.A. and Babyface. It tells a story about how mothers always cares for their children, making sure that you keep it in the family, do the chores. They will always be there for you through the good and bad. So we'll always have that beautiful song. So we put A Song for Mama by Boys to Men. And I put that's some of my top 10 Mother's Day songs. So you have any of yours?
Yes, I don't know if I have 10, and mine are kind of not necessarily written about Mother's Day, or even just mothers in general. I just know that I can personally relate them to my mom. Dear Mama, oh my gosh. I watched that music video and it just touched me. Oh, I love that song. I do. I think it was well written. Um, and it's really deep, and I don't think people understand just always how deep things can go. And that's a really good example of that. Um, Another one, it's newer. It's by John Legend. It's called Home. I believe he wrote it for his children. Um, However, when I heard it the first time, I just was bawling my eyes out because it just reminded me of my parents so much. You'll always have a home. Um, no matter where you go, you'll always have a home. And it's just being able to, he always is good about relaying his feelings in that way, but also in that sentimental and real, raw way as well. And I remember hearing that and I just like cried. I was like, I can't stop crying listening to this song, but it was just so good and it's so relatable. Um, and I think whether you are that person for somebody or that's your mom or your dad or whoever, I think that's a really touching song. So that's a good one that I had actually covered for my mom for this year. So she'll get that. We'll see. It took a while because I did not cry to do it, but it's definitely was so much worth it. Um, Another one, also kind of random. This one is from the movie Smash, and it's Jennifer Hudson, and it's Mama Makes Three. It is more on the comedic side of things. However, she does say she chaperoned each party, every date, and every dance. My mom and dad were always at everything, any sporting event, any music event, concert, practice, meeting. They were always there, and my mom was really always there. I competed for Miss Ohio a couple years ago, and I know it was not her thing at all. And by the end of it, maybe wasn't my thing either, but we did it together, and I think that was like the most important part of the entire thing. And we went through a lot of emotions through that entire thing, but it was so worth it. She was always there, never missed a beat. Let me see here. Respect by Aretha Franklin, and I know that that might not make a whole lot of sense for some people, but there is something about my mom when she walks into a room, even though she's like 5'4", she always commands respect, and she always deserves the respect that she commands, and not in a way of I need you to respect me, but just she cares so much about everybody that she's around and that's around her, and she has so much respect for so many people that you have to respect her. You can't not. You know, she'd give you advice that you might not have ever thought you needed, and it could completely change your life. And she's done that for my friends. I know my fiance, and all these different people in my life. So I think that that one, even though it's more, I guess, unorthodox to be a Mother's Day song, that would still be in my top picks for sure. And let's see here. We have, I can't remember what it's called. Really random. John Mayer has a song called Daughters, and it's daughters. I think it's fathers be good to your daughters. Girls become lovers who turn into mothers, so mothers be good to your daughters too. And she played that for us when we were younger, so that was always a really good song. But I think it's huge because that's another one where it kind of teaches you if you care for this person and care for yourself, then they will care for their people and themselves. So it's a good example of how that love and respect rolls down, and it rolls down into your kids, but it can also roll back up into your parents if you're a kid. And that is something that's really important that I really hope no matter what she does or where she goes that she always recognizes that I appreciate her and everything she's taught me and given me and opportunities that she's helped me get, that I am so appreciative and blessed and grateful for those. And it really is. It's a tree and it trickles down, and I think that that's a beautiful thing. There was one more, and I cannot remember it off of the top of my head. You touched on Dear Mama. I can't remember my other one, but another song that her and I really liked that we both cry about was Temporary Home by Carrie Underwood. But it kind of talks about a foster kid. It talks about somebody's grandparent who had passed away in the hospital, um, and that, you know, Earth is our temporary home, heaven is where we're all connected, but you're given a choice and or maybe not a choice on Earth of that home. And home's not always a place, and it's not always even a person. It could be something, but they were always good about giving me a home. And whether it's temporary compared to, you know, crossing over, yes, but this I wouldn't change my home for anything. And my home is my family. It's not where we lived. We've moved a bunch of times, and they've moved a bunch of times. I've traveled a lot, and it's always with them. No matter where I go, I moved out this past year, but when my fiance goes away for work, I go home. Because I just love spending time with them. And there's just something so beautiful about being able to bond with your parents on that level. There is another song called Rescue. It's by Lauren Daigle. It's a Christian song. And she says, I will send out an army to find you. In the middle of the darkest nights, it's true, I will rescue you. No matter who it is, no matter what it is, my mom could be so angry at me. I could have messed something up. And at the time, she wouldn't tell me that. She would just take care of me and help me or get me out of a pickle, whether it's financial or work crisis or whatever it could be. She always picks me up when I'm down. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm, like I said, a lot of my friends and even people I'm really close with don't have anything near what I have. My biological sister, she grew up with our biological mom, and man, has she turned into just this beautiful, beautiful mother of all of these amazing boys. And, you know, she's finally got somebody with her now that, you know, helps her with that. But she's always been so independent, and she could have fell down hard like our mom did. She's into drugs. But she didn't. She did the complete opposite. And now she takes in kids from the neighborhood. If they have nowhere to go or nowhere to stay, she'll take them in and have them come stay with her. And so it's really cool because even though we just met a few years ago, she can do that. And that's what my mom always did. And Rescue You is one of those songs. I sent it to her as well because I said, I think you really need to hear this because it reminds me of you just as much as it reminds me of Mom. So yeah, those would be my top. How many was that? Like 6? 6 or 7? But I know they're a little bit different than yours. But I think it's really cool too to see like people's different, like these are my Mother's Day songs, or these are my Mother's Day songs, because they do all relate back to our experiences and our love for our mothers and grandmothers and aunts, and sisters, and whoever else has taken care of us over the years.
Mm-hmm. Now, before I go, I want to mention a special shout out to Smokey Robinson. He did a new song that came out, I think it was 2022 or 23. It's called Mommy, You're My Daddy Too. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, to the single moms, you mentioned you were a motivational speaker. Special shout out to the single mothers who had to be fathers too. And the other way around, you have fathers who had to be mothers too. So I just want to give a shout out to that one.
Yes.
I didn't want to leave that out, but you know, since you come from different blended families, adopted families, and everything, so I just want to give a shout out to that one. Well, Desi, thank you so much for being here on the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. It's been a pleasure talking with you as we celebrate Mother's Day. Thank you so much for sharing your story to me and to our audience as we celebrate Mother's Day. A special time to thank all of our mothers, and I always give a shout out to my late mother as well as to my late maternal and paternal grandmothers, as always to my aunts, my godmothers, and to my great aunts and the great grandmothers, and to my cousins who are mothers, as well as the new mothers and those who are expecting to be mothers, we give a shout out to you as well. So, Desi, thank you again for responding the call. And I said, I got to respond. So I said, I had to get you on here to give you a little sunshine in your life. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and it was so good to get to know you and be able to relate to you as well. So we'll stay in touch, and yeah, thank you so much for everything.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
Okay. Now, before we go, where can we follow you for any upcoming events, and where can we follow you on social media? And I mentioned those couple of songs are on YouTube.
Yes, definitely can find me on YouTube. It is Desi Hunt. I'm currently deciding if I want to just get to Desi, but some things pop up when I just type in Desi, so I kind of got to figure out how to phrase my name in a way where other things maybe don't pop up. But you can find me on Facebook at Desi Hunt or Desi. You can find me on YouTube at Desi Hunt. Instagram is official Desi Hunt. And I do have a website. It is titled Desi, and that is linked into both my Instagram and my Facebook accounts. I'm not really that active on TikTok, so that's about all I have. But everything, if you can find me on Facebook, you can find everything. So.
Okay. Download all of our favorite Mother's Day songs from your favorite artists that we have talked about on this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. Visit iTunes.com, Spotify.com, or purchase a CD at Amazon.com. Make sure you follow Desi Hunt. She is on Facebook. She is also on Instagram. Also look for her on TikTok. And make sure you check out all of her music videos available right now on YouTube. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out this episode, please subscribe by going to the link. The link is riverside.fm/studio/Samuel-Wilson Jr.'s. Don't forget to add the S at the end, -studio. And yes, I will be posting this episode on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And if you have a hard time getting on to riverside.fm, then please become a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. All you need to do is log in to Patreon, put in your email and password, go to the Patreon homepage, and type in the Black Soul Music Experience podcast to check out all of my audio and video clips that you may have missed. And if you have a hard time getting on to Patreon, then make sure you look for this episode. It will be coming on YouTube. Just go to the YouTube homepage and type in the name of my podcast, the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. If you like this episode, please subscribe, please support, give me a big thumbs up, please leave a comment, and please pass it on. Thank you for joining me as I close out this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience, and happy Mother's Day. Well, that's about it for this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. I'm Sam Wilson Jr. Thank you for joining me, and please tune in next week for an all-new episode. The Black Soul Music Experience podcast is sponsored by the support of listeners like you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe by going to riverside.fm/studio/Samuel-Wilson Jr.'s -studio. And don't forget to check out my audio podcast episodes by becoming a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. And also check out my video podcast episodes by subscribing to youtube.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. And please leave your comments, feedbacks, and replies by going to my Facebook homepage. Visit facebook.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. And you can also tweet me on X, aka Twitter, at Sam Wilson Jr. 66. As always, parting, remember this: reach for the top, and your dreams will come true, and it can happen to you. From all of us, take care. God bless. Thanks for listening. Have a good week, and please be safe.